Venezuela's President Nicolás Maduro Moros lays a wreath at the Algerian Martyrs Monument and visits the Revolution Museum. In the United States, the People's Summit becomes a space for political discussion and cultural exchange among the nations of the continent in an atmosphere of respect and without exclusion. Somalia's newly elected president, Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, appealed to the diaspora and international community to help stave off the famine that threatens his drought-stricken country. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. During his visit to Algeria, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro Moros visited places of high historical value for the Algerian people. President Maduro laid a wreath at the Monument of the Martyrs in order to pay tribute to the heroes who fought for the independence of Algeria, which is one of the most representative elements of the city of Algiers and visible from any point of the city. Likewise, accompanied by the Algerian Minister of Energy, he also visited the Museum of the Revolution, a historical space that exhibits a vast collection of articles related to the War of Independence of the North African country. Upon leaving the premises, the Venezuelan president signed the visitor's book, in which he admired the heroism of the Algerian people and saluted the strong ties that exist between Venezuela and Algeria. The governments of Venezuela and Algeria decided to relaunch the high-level joint commission with the purpose of strengthening bilateral relations. During a shared press conference, Venezuela's President Nicolás Maduro Moros described as extraordinary the meeting with his counterpart, Algeria's President Abdelmadjid Tebboune. In the meeting held in Algiers, the head of state shared their positions on world geopolitical issues, such as Palestine, the situation of the Sahrawi people, Libya, and the construction of a multipolar world. Regarding bilateral relations, the dignitaries discussed oil, gas, agriculture, science, technology, and university education. Maduro pointed out that from this moment on, the relations between both nations enter a new phase, which will promote the union and prosperity of both peoples. And the President, Nicolás Maduro, announced the upcoming activation of air connections between both capitals.
Venezuelans and Algerians will be able to get on a plane and go to Caracas on a direct flight. Get on a plane and come from Caracas to Algeria on a direct flight. Very soon we will have a direct air connection from North Africa to the north of South America, from Algeria to Venezuela.
For his part, the president of Algeria, Abdelmadjid Tebboune, informed during the press conference the opening of an airline between Algiers and Caracas.
We have discussed together many cultural and economic issues and dossiers on the international scene of Algeria and Venezuela, as well as at the international level. We have also decided to open next month an airline between Algiers and Caracas.
The Algerian president also indicated that together with his Venezuelan counterpart, Nicolás Maduro, and they discussed cooperation and international aid.
With President Nicolás Maduro, we have evoked together some points of the international relations of the international political scenario, more specifically the current events and the help we have to provide to the Palestinian people for the construction of their own state with capital in Jerusalem. In the same way, we have evoked the Western Sahara and the help we have to provide to the Sahrawi people to achieve a referendum for their self-determination. As for the Libyan issue, there was a consensus and a convergence of views on trying to help our Libyan brothers to proceed to elections and then the organization of elections that will allow the election of new leaders who will enjoy popular legitimacy and build a new state.
In Colombia, finishes the rescue of the bodies of 15 miners who died after an explosion in a coal mine in the northeast of the country. The National Emergency and Mining Agency reported that early on Thursday morning, the lifeless body of the last worker who was missing at the La Mestiza mine was found. According to the Secretary of Mines at the Department of Norte de Santander, John Olivares, the mine had the state permits. However, its work had been suspended during March 2021 due to an accident. In this sense, the official warned about the need to monitor daily all the safety conditions in the mines in the country. And TeleSUR expands its signal with new satellite parameters. Since more than ever, the world connects to us and our stories are being heard in other farther away nations. These parameters are in place since June 1st in Latin America and the Caribbean, both in English and in Spanish, and quite soon further changes will be implemented for the signals in Europe, the Middle East and Africa. This new multi-platform will continue providing truthful content to oppose the hegemonic media's narrative and our faithfulness to our audience. We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back. The Summit of the Peoples advances in the United States, consolidating itself as a space for political discussion and cultural exchange among the nations of the continent without exclusion. During this event, social movements from Latin American and Caribbean nations discuss issues of common interest such as democracy, internationalism, and access to basic services. According to the organizers of the People's Summit, the first day of debates was a success since it was attended by people from all over the region and brought together multiple sectors that fight in defense of fundamental rights of the people. The speakers also discussed the need to build regional and national health systems that promote autonomy and dignity. Also in the United States, the Summit of the Americas takes place in the middle of criticism from several delegations due to the exclusion policy imposed by the White House. On Thursday, the high-level segment began, in which several leaders of the region have already participated, including Joe Biden of the United States, Laurentino Cortizo of Panama, and Mario Abdo Benitez of Paraguay. The president of Argentina, Alberto Fernandez, also appeared during the day, representing the community of Latin American and Caribbean states, CELAC, raising the main concerns of the region. Argentina's head of state and CELAC's pro-tempore president, Alberto Fernandez, criticized the U.S. blockade against Cuba and Washington's sanctions on Venezuela during his speech at the Summit of the Americas, which is being held in the U.S. city of Los Angeles.
Are trapped and mired in poverty. From the sidelines where we are placed, Latin America and the Caribbean are pained to see the suffering of our brother and sister countries. Cuba is bearing an embargo that is over 6 decades old, imposed during the years of the Cold War, and Venezuela is bearing another, while a pandemic that is hitting humanity hard is taking with it millions of lives. With measures of this type, the idea is to put conditions on governments, but in fact, it only hurts people. We definitely would have wished for a different Summit of the Americas. The silence of those who are absent is called millions of people.
During his speech at the Summit of the Americas, the Prime Minister of Belize, John Antonio Briceño, expressed his regret about the exclusion of several countries from the summit.
This summit belongs to all of the Americas. It is therefore inexcusable that all countries of the Americas are not here, and the power of the summit diminished by their absence. It is incomprehensible that we would isolate countries of the Americas which have provided strong leadership and contributed to the hemisphere on the critical issues of our times. Cuba has provided consistent, unmatched cooperation in health to almost 2/3 of the countries in this hemisphere, including Belize. The illegal blockade against Cuba is an affront to humanity. In fact, it is un-American. The time has come, Mr. President, to lift the blockade and to build bonds of friendship with the people of Cuba. Similarly, Venezuela has done so much towards energy security for the Caribbean region through its innovative financing programs. Venezuela's absence is unforgivable.
In the same line, Briseño recalled some words of Venezuela's founding father and hero, Simón Bolívar, about the need of the Latin American people's unity.
As we work this 9th Summit of the Americas, let us call to mind the words of El Libertador Simón Bolívar. En la unidad de nuestras naciones descansa.
In the unity of our nations rests the glorious future of our peoples.
Nations rest the glorious future of our peoples. Thank you very much.
And we reiterate, the Summit of the Americas takes place amidst criticism from delegations over the exclusionary policy of the United States. Mexican Foreign Minister Marcelo Ebrard expressed that the decision not to leave out of the summit of the group of countries presupposes a unilateral decision, contrary to the spirit of continental integration.
The issue of exclusion and the expiration of the organizational model will also be established. We have to think of another model, a total different one, in another stage. We're no longer in the same situation we have seen in the last few years, which is to intervene. The only thing they do is to send observers. Look, the OAS has spent more in electoral observers than in the support to the pandemic.
And the Foreign Minister of Bolivia, Rogelio Mayra, declared that it was necessary to review the dialogue in the continent in the context of the policy of exclusion practiced at the Summit of the Americas.
Our message here is that we need to review the dialogue in our continent. The conversation between the countries in this hemisphere, in our land. Unfortunately, we come from an institutional construction that has been tailored to the superpower that we have as a neighbor.
In allusion to the role played by the Organization of American States, OAS, during the coup d'etat suffered by Bolivia in 2019, the Foreign Minister mentioned the lack of clarity in the requests made by his country for information on the matter.
We will continue to insist. And to be clear, we have 10 formal requests to Almagro, to this OAS of Almagro, so that he can show us this information. And so far, he has not done it. Let us say that this is not exactly a demonstration of democratic or transparent conduct. But unfortunately, this is how this OAS of our days is. And it is the evident and clear proof that things have to change.
The Prime Minister of Dominica, Roosevelt Scarrett, gave a statement in which he explained the main reasons for participating in the Americas Summit.
I decided to attend for a few reasons. One, to make our position very clear that the Summit of Americas mandate all countries to participate in a discussion on issues confronting the hemisphere, and that countries that have been left out should have been invited, so that they too can have their voice and the voice of the people heard. Secondly, is that we need to reiterate our call for the removal of the embargo against the people of Cuba.
In the same context, Scarrett also emphasized the need to remove Cuba from the list of countries sponsoring terrorism and the need for unity among peoples.
Third point also is to call on the removal of Cuba from the list of state sponsor of terrorism. To put Cuba on such a list is really laughable, but it is too serious to laugh. And the other point is that we, Dominica, is from the south, but we also have friends enough. And we need to have the opportunity to engage ourselves on matters confronting the world.
And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back. In his inauguration speech on Thursday, Somalia's newly elected president, Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, appealed to the diaspora and the international community to help stave off the famine that threatens his drought-stricken country. Aid agencies have warned of an approaching famine as cases of severe malnutrition among children shoot up in the troubled Horn of the African nation, which is battling record drought following 4 failed rainy seasons. The United Nations had said Monday that multiple appeals for aid have gone largely unnoticed so far, with nearly half the country's population going hungry and more than 200,000 people on the brink of starvation. The drought crisis has also hit Somalia's neighbors, Ethiopia and Kenya, whose presidents were among the foreign leaders attending Thursday's ceremony held under heavy security in the Mogadishu airport complex. And to cope with the influx of asylum seekers arriving from Minsk to the European Union, Poland is building a 5-meter-high wall on its border with Belarus. According to Polish border guards, the construction will be completed by the end of June and will be equipped with cameras and electronic sensors.
The wall stretches for more than 180 kilometers along the land border between Poland and Belarus and is 5.50 meters high. Every wall can be crossed as long as you have the necessary tools. The Belarusian authorities have these tools, so we have to be constantly alert and the wall has to be constantly inspected.
There are always possibilities even to cross a wall. A determined person will always try and there is always a chance to succeed. But for the moment the wall seems to be effective when the cameras and surveillance tools are installed. It will become very difficult to cross the border.
The lifeless body of one of the 8 miners trapped underground since April 16th in a zinc mine in Burkina Faso was found, making 7 the number of the dead found. The 8 miners, 6 Burkinabe, 1 Zambian and 1 Tanzanian, were trapped at the bottom of this mine west of Ouagadougou and operated by the Canadian company Trevally Mining after heavy rains flooded the underground galleries, where they were working 700 meters below ground. Since their disappearance, no contact had been established with them, but rescuers had long hoped that they had taken shelter in a refuge chamber located 580 meters below the surface, where survival kits containing water, food and medicine are usually stored. Now we address other topics. The Supreme Court of the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic sentenced to death 3 foreign mercenaries who fought against the Donbass and Russia. The court authorities indicated that the investigations established that the mercenaries and British of Moroccan origin participated in the hostilities in Ukraine in exchange for a financial reward. Meanwhile, the entity stressed that the convicted persons can appeal the court's decision within 1 month and ask for pardon. In this case, they noted that if the president of the self-proclaimed Republic of Donetsk grants a pardon, the death penalty can be commuted to a sentence of 25 years to life imprisonment. So we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. And before our farewells, we say goodbye with the song Es Nuestra América, It's Our America, performed by Maito Rivera with Alexander José Gil Domínguez, Hijo del Sur, and Aquiles Rengifo, Aquilín, a melody that celebrates our union as a continent. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.
Pueblo latino, vamos para adelante tumbando Cuba, esa tierra es tuya y también es mía. Pueblo mestizo, guerrero y solidario. Aquí nadie es extraño, aquí somos hermanos. Todos los países digan presente. Venezuela y Cuba presente. Nicaragua, Honduras presente. El Caribe entero. América, un continente se levanta, un pueblo unido que no calla, no se detiene. América, un continente se levanta, un pueblo unido que no calla.
Soy Tupac Katari, soy hueca y puro, 5 siglos resistiendo el atropello y el